Welcome back, everybody. Been a while, so I thought I'd do another little bit more of an installment in our Ichimoku code Pinescript. Do another example of some coding, and hopefully you can pick up a few tips and tricks along the way and to see what I did and how I did it. So where are we right now? So we've already done the Ichimoku script for this one. I've called it my Ichimoku, my Ichi. And if I jump into the code, alright, here's the code. So what we did last time is actually it's probably easier if I just show you here. We put some alerts in this time where we could show when the Chiku span crossed the Kijun line, and if you forget what that was all about, that's where the yellow line, the Chiku, crossed the Kijun line, which is the red line here. There's a couple of reds, but essentially you know what I will do? Let's turn the Kijun line to a different color. Let's make it pink. There we go. That might make it a bit easier. I think that's actually called fuchsia. Actually, while I'm at it, let's do that. Let's make that fuchsia. There we go. Save. Okay. So now we should look at exactly the same thing. When it saves, boom. There we go. Okay. All right. So where were we? When the Chiku span crossed the Kijun line, we got an arrow. So let's turn on that condition, and boom. Okay. So there we go. Now, although we are seeing an arrow here, it is actually because it crossed 30 periods ago. So where would that have been? Back here? That looks like, could be about 30. Let's have a look. Crossed there. 31. Yes, that's correct, because if we remember, we have a special function where we say not only does it have to cross, but it has to have stayed crossed for 1 bar, which is why, although our Kijun length is 30, plus the 1 to confirm it means 31. So when it went down for this arrow here, that was, let's grab my little arrow, it crossed there. It crossed there, but it had to stay crossing. So yeah, that's why it's 31. Okay, so there we go. So we have a alert, or an arrow is when it tells us when the Chiku crossed the Kijun, and as you can see, it went up, and then it went down, and that's why we have it up, and then we have it down. Okay, the next alert that we had last time was the Heikin close above or below the Kumo. Now the Kumo, obviously big cloud, so here we have a red arrow underneath the cloud, so that's saying that the close, remember it's using the crossover confirm function, it's not just crossing over. So that means although it closed underneath the Kumo, it has stayed closed under the Kumo. So that's why we have an arrow there. And when was the last time we had something above the cloud? It'll be up here, there it is. Alright, so we have pop, it's closed above, still closed above, so we got the arrow. But that wouldn't have given you much because splat. That was our second one. And then the third condition we had is we wanted to highlight the background color to tell us our trend change. And we decided that our trend change was when when price was above or below the cloud. So here price was above, so it was green, then it went below, and then it went into the cloud, which is why we have this gap here, and then it went below, and so the red. So if we zoom all the way back out, oh man, gosh, lots of red previous, and well, let's get back to the green. Alright, so that's where we are. So now some of the other conditions that are generally used in Ichimoku trading is the Tankenson and Kijun cross. What that means is, let me grab my arrow, this sort of thing. Let me turn magnet off too. Okay, so TradingView developers, if you're ever watching this video, cross fingers, it would be nice if there was a hotkey for arrow and a hotkey for magnet mode on or off, rather than having to click here. I'd love to be able to go alt something and turn it on or off. Anyway, so here we have a cross. The blue line is the faster moving line, which is the Tenkan, and the fuchsia line is the slower moving line, which is the Kijun. So when the Tankenson crosses the Kijun, we want to have an alert. However, generally speaking, if we go into the signals and we have a look at Tankenson Kijun cross, we have strong signals, we have neutral signals, and we have weak signals. And to summarize it, basically when there is when Tankenson crosses above the Kijun, if the cross happens above the cloud, bullish signal, looking really, really good. That's the sort of alert you want to take action on. If the cross happens within the cloud, that's the neutral. That's like, you'd probably want to see a little bit more confirmation on other indicators or elsewhere, support and resistance, that kind of thing, before you actually took any sort of notice of that alert. And then if it's underneath the cloud, that's a weak signal. Probably not pay much attention to it, maybe look at some really good confirmations elsewhere. So for example, what we're looking at here, we have a Tankenson crossing above the Kijun, but when you really look at it, one, it's underneath the cloud, so already it's a weak signal, and two, you can see that the Tankenson is not really going anywhere, it's just sort of hovering around this area, and it's actually the Kijun that is dropped, making it appear like it was a cross above, but it's not. It's the Kijun just returning down to its new balance equilibrium state down here. So that would be a false signal. So what we want to do is we want to have an alert that tells us not only when the Tankenson crosses above or below the Kijun, but we want to filter out the results so that if it crosses above the Kijun, it has to be above the cloud, and if it crosses below the Kijun, it has to be below the cloud, and we can ignore the rest. Okay, so jumping into our code, how are we going to do it? Well, let's see what we've got. Let's remind us of what our variables are so that we know how to refer to them. So we are using TK for the Tankenson line, KJ for the Kijun line. We are using CK, we won't need CK. We will need SKA and SKB. No, we won't, because we've already defined the Kumo top and the Kumo bottom. So we are going to need to know, Kumo tops and Kumo bottoms, because that's going to be part of our filter. And TK and KJ, so that's really what we're going to do. And we're also going to be using the crossover confirm command, function, and the cross under confirm. Okay, so let's create a new section. So we've got C2, we've got C condition 1, that was our Chiku crossing the Kijun. Our C2 was our Heikin close crossing the, Heikin close on the 4-hour time frame, closing above or below the Kumo top, or the Kumo. And while I'm at it, let me just put that in between. And then C condition 3 was the background color trend change. And the difference between those two is C2, condition 2 used the ternary condition structure, which is the question mark and colon way of deciding one way or another. And a quick look at that is where is it? There it is, that one there. So the question mark colon, a ternary conditional operator. You have an expression with a question mark. You have an expression 2 and expression 3. So you could think of it really quickly. Just a side note here, if I just give myself a little bit of room, think of it this way. Let's create a box. Boom. Let's create an arrow. No, give me an arrow. Yeah. Yeah. And another arrow. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So think of it this way. The red box here, that's our initial expression, or our expression 1. So this is like saying this is a statement that could be true or false. Alright? If it evaluates to true, then do this side of things. So let's put, if it's true, let's make that a green. And while I'm at it, let's make this yellow, just for giggles. Alright, and then, come here. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this. And clone you. And put you over here. Alright, so ternary condition is this yellow box that represents a statement that can be true or false. So in other words, value A is greater than value B. Now, if that is a true statement, then this green box represents what the code should do if that condition is true. And why not do this? True. And then, obviously, everyone can guess what I'm about to do here. And false. Okay. So, if A is greater than B, so hang on, A greater than B, that's our condition. If that evaluates to true, then this block of code gets run. But if A is not greater than B, then that's A greater than B is false, therefore this block of code gets run. Alright, so that's essentially what this is saying. So in this example here, we have combination of operators. So C, that's our variable, is equal to, is intraday. So intraday, that's like saying, is this a true or a false? If this is true, then C gets the value red. Otherwise, it then does this block of code, which is another ternary condition. So if we ignore everything on the outside of that, we now start again. Is daily. That's now a true or false. If it's true, then it becomes green. Otherwise, is weekly. Now we have another one. And that's the last part. So is weekly, is that true? Then it gets blue. If it's false, it gets grey. Hope that didn't confuse you. So essentially look at it this way. Start with a true or false statement. If while the code is running it becomes true, then this block of code gets run. Otherwise, it's false. So what that then means is this part goes there, and this is true, this is false, and condition. And let's clone that as well. Let's put you there. Question mark. Clone. I really should get another sort of drawing program for these sorts of videos. It would make things a little bit quicker. Okay, so I hope this works out. So the condition A greater than B, or whatever statement, would give you a true or a false result. Then you have the question mark. If it is true, then this block of code gets run. If it is false, this block of code gets run. And remember, within each of these blocks can be a whole other, can be a gear, can be a whole other one of these. Alright, let's get rid of that, and let's get rid of that. So, if the block of code that gets evaluated to true, then you have a block of code here, and this block of code can be a whole other set of true and falses if you wish. Same with the false. This block of code can also be a whole block of these. Okay? So that's what that's all about. Now, moving on. Let's back to this, and there, and back to the code. So we're going to have condition 4 where the TK crosses the Kijun. So let's start with separating that. And we're going to call that, actually let's give me some more room, there we go. Okay, so we're going to call this C_4. That's going to be our switch. That's the variable that is going to receive. Actually, you know what? I'll just do this. I'll delete that. And I'll take this line because it's already written out for me. And I will change C3 to C4. And I will say show Tenkan crossing Kijun. Brilliant. Okay. Let's have a look. How did we do the... We'll use arrows. So we're going to have a variable that looks a bit like that. So I'm going to call this variable tk_x_kj that makes complete sense, is equal to, and now we're going to have a ternary condition. So our ternary condition is going to use the crossover confirm. Right, so let's start with a new line, and remember we want to stay within this variable. I'm just breaking up the code into multiple lines, so I need one space. So the first condition is going to be a crossover confirm. So crossover confirm, which is our special custom function we wrote moons ago. So crossover confirm, we need two variables to test whether it's crossed. We're going to have the first variable is going to be tk, which is our Tenkan line, and the Kijun line. Okay, so this is our expression 1. Alright, so when we come back to here, this is expression 1. Crossover confirm. So that basically is either going to be true or false. And then the question mark. So if it is true, then we want to have the number 1. Okay, so if we look up here, if this one was a true, then we get the value of 1. So we're going to have exactly the same thing here, 1. Now I'm going to go into a new line, and it already gave me that space, which is nice. Otherwise, so hang on, so the 1 that we just wrote there, that's me saying expression 2. Alright, so expression 1 is, have we just had a cross? Did the Tankenson just cross the Kijun? Let me start again. Expression 1 is, has the Tankenson crossed above the Kijun? If that is true, then I want to have the number 1, which is what we have here. And that, remember, all of these is going to be put into the variable that we created as tk cross kj. So if that's false, in other words, if the Tankenson line, if the tk has not crossed above the kj, then one of two things has happened. It's either crossed below, or it hasn't bloody well crossed at all. So let's test to see whether it has crossed below. And to do that, exactly the same as the first, as expression 1, except it's going to be cross under. So cross under confirm, that's our function, and we pass the same variables, tk, kj. Now, because we are nesting another set, just like I mentioned above, this is going to be a whole new block of code. So it has, it has another question mark. So this has now become expression 1, because expression 1, question mark, expression 2, colon, expression 3, all of this is now being that's the wrong word, this is now being nested inside expression 2. Okay, so expression 1, expression 2, and this part is the expression 3 of the first part of the condition test, you could say. But instead of expression 3, or the false side of the equation, being a number, the expression 3 is becoming a whole new set of expressions. Don't know whether I'm making myself quite clear enough there. Okay, expression 1, 2, and 3. These 3, I'm going to call this a set of expressions. Okay, condition, true, and false. All right, so the expression 1 is the condition, the test. Expression 1 is the first result, or the true result, and expression 3 is the false result. Okay, so here the variable is going to receive a value. Crossover confirm is the test, and the number 1 is the true result. The false result is a whole new set of expressions. Aha, I think that makes sense now. If not, hit me up on Discord and ask me to explain it even further. Links in the description. Okay, so now we're into expression 3, or the false result of the first set of expressions, and we've started again. Cross under confirm. Tenkan, we're testing whether the tk is crossing under the kj. If that is true, then we want a negative 1 value to be returned into the variable tk cross kj. Alright, so up to this point, we've now tested to see whether the tk is crossed above or crossed below. But if none of those are true, oops, there we go. If that's not, there we go. If that's not true, then we don't care about anything else, so we just want to return a 0. Okay, so tk cross kj is either going to be a value of 1, a value of -1, or a value of 0. We really only want to be concerned with if it's 1 or -1. Okay, now the next part of them is we're going to, let's assign some colors. So let's say the variable name underscore color up is equal to the color. What color we should do this one? Well, let's see, we've got an aqua line and we've got a fuchsia line. So let's say if it crosses up, let's give it an aqua color with 0 transparency. And let's copy that down and let's call that color down. How do I do the one above? Color, yep, up, down. And let's make that fuchsia because that's the color of the Kijun line. Cool. So now we've got what colors are going to be associated with this arrow. Now we need an arrow. So let's take this arrow. Actually, no, I'll rewrite it just so that I could explain it as we go. So we want the function plot arrow, and then we open the function. Now, we have set up this condition C4 as like a switch, and what that means is we want a checkbox to be able to turn this arrow drawing process on or off. So if that is, at the moment, it's false. In other words, we're not showing the arrow. So we want to have the condition. So this plot arrow is going to be drawing an arrow if this condition is true. So we're going to say C_4. Now let's, just for argument's sake, let's make this true for now, just so I don't have to turn it on later. So now C4, the variable C4, is holding a big fat yes. Yes, do this. True. Go ahead. Thumbs up. Full steam ahead. So, true. And we'll do a question mark. What happens if it's going to be true? Well, we want to plot whatever value got assigned to the variable tk cross kj. That. So we're doing another one of these sets of expressions. Expression 1 is the variable C4, which at this point holds the true. So that means we're going to run the true result, which is the value of our variable here. But if that was false, then not applicable. Don't do anything. Don't draw an arrow. We don't want to see an arrow. Cool. Alrighty, so that's where we're at there. Now, what about if it's evaluating to 0? Okay. Well, if it's 0, we don't want to see an arrow. So what we then do is the condition C4, which is true, we also want to have another true statement that's going to tell me whether we're getting a 1 or a -1. And the way we're going to do this is, instead of asking if we have a 1 or a -1, we're just going to ask if we do not have a 0, because it's the result of tk cross kj is only going to be one of these three results: 1, -1, or 0. So we're going to have that variable. We're going to have, and that variable is not equal to 0. Okay? So the and means combine this true or false with this true or false, and if it's both of them are true, so in other words, when you put an and, if you think of C4 and that condition, both those conditions have to be true for everything to be true. Alright? So C4, well, we know that's true. Let's assume that it has crossed over, so we have a 1, so that's not equal to 0. 1 is not equal to 0, that's true. So therefore true and true, and so therefore we're going to plot an arrow that represents the value that is in the variable tk cross kj. In this case, if it's crossing up, we're going to get a 1. It's a positive number, which means we're going to get an up arrow. Okay? So what do we do next? Well, let's give this arrow a title, so that when you're in the settings and you want to change the color or whatever you want to do, the transparency of it, you know what you're referring to. So we're going to go title, yes, equals, open quotes, let's have the variable tk cross kj, arrow. Dash fine. That's pretty good. That says it enough. Now, the next ones are, the next part of the plot arrow function. If we just control click that, we have all these parameters within the plot arrow function. So we've done the series. The series is, if I just move that aside, which doesn't look like I can, oh, there we go. Oh, okay, moving a bit slow today. Nice. Okay, so the series is all of this. Okay, so if I was to just write the number 1 in that series, I would just get a whole lot of up arrows everywhere. C4 and TK and the variable not equal to 0, question mark, plot the variable, otherwise NA. All of that is the series parameter. Okay, the next parameter is title. We've done that. Title equals TK cross KJ arrow. Next one, we want to know the color for if the arrow is up and the color if the arrow is down. So we do this. Color up is equal to, and we've already defined the color being aqua, so I'll just take that variable. Color up is equal to that. Same thing for color down is equal to, and then we can take the variable we assigned for the down color. Okay, that's enough of that, and let's get rid of you. Bye bye. And the last couple of parameters, the max height and the min height, I'm just going to copy that. In fact, while I've copied it, I might just check to see what else we've got. So we've got a 50, we've got a 30. Let's make the minimum height 10, so that if any arrows overlap, we can still see them. What this would mean is if I get all 3 arrows, the CK cross KJ arrow will be the longest one, and then the next one will be on top of that one, so it's slightly shorter. So we would end up seeing not the pointy end of the arrow, but the butt end will be this color. Will it be the 30? I think, hang on. Yeah. No, that's not right. The butt end would be this 50 because it's the longest part. The 30 would cover up the majority of that, and then the 10 would cover up the majority of that. So if we end up getting any, I'll show you what I mean. Okay, so we have looks like we have everything we need, except we haven't done the filtering out process yet. But let's just save that to see if we have any errors. Insert elevator music here. Oh, we do have one. What has that happened? Okay, line 103, syntax error. Okay, where are we? And it's got a comma. Okay, where is the comma? There it is. Didn't need to copy that comma. Done. 10 points for anyone who spotted that ahead of me. Cool. Alright. So it looks like we've got some arrows already. And let's make sure that we've got... Yep. Okay, so we've got the Tankenson crossing Kijun. And there it is. So remember, we're confirming it by 1 candle. So let me pull my arrow down. This is the candle where the TK crossed, but then it's been confirmed there. And then same thing for here. The TK crossed on this candle here, ever so slightly. There's a tiny little difference there, but it's confirmed there. Okay. Now, the problem is both of those arrows are below the Kumo. So if we're having an up arrow below the Kumo, that's a weak signal. Whereas a down arrow, this is considered a strong signal. Even though when you look at the whole scope of things, it's pretty damn sideways anyway. So everything could be in neutral. Maybe you might want to pull out to the weekly and see how we're looking on a weekly. Okay. That's a thin Kumo. Wow, okay. So, oh, there we go. Okay, so we had well, there you go. We had a weak down signal way back in March. So maybe this doesn't really pertain too much on the weekly charts. The daily's a little bit more action and a lot more the lower you go. Right, so let's filter this out now. We can clear our console. Now, if we go back up to our conditions, crossover confirm TK cross KJ. Well, first of all, we need to know if the TK or the KJ are above or below the Kumo. And what we can do is we can either build this condition into our functions, or we can create two other variables, is above and is below. So let's do it this way. We will have a variable called is above. How's that? Yep, is above. That should do. You can call it anything you like as long as you're consistent. And remember, it is case sensitive. So is above is equal to. So is above is going to be a true or a false variable. Okay, it's a switch. So is above is going to be equal to. Now remember, we already know what a Kumo top is because we defined it here. Kumo top is the maximum of the SKA, which is the faster Kumo line, and the SKB, which is the longer term Kumo line. So we want to know whether, let's have a think about this, either one of those lines has to be above, they have to be crossing. So if they're crossing, let's say that the greater, so rather than saying both TK and KJ have to be above the cloud, let's say that only one of them really has to be, which would be the maximum. Okay, so we're going to use the max again. So the max value between the TK and the KJ, so whatever is the greater value, has to be greater than Kumo top. That's not the right. What's it? There it is. Kumo underscore top. Let's just take that. So you've got to be consistent, otherwise you get funny results. There we go. So what that is saying is the greater value between the TK and the KJ has to be greater than, let's say greater than or equal, just to give us a bit of wiggle room if it's near enough to the top. So greater than or equal to the Kumo top. Okay. Now if that's true, well then is above is true. Okay, that's pretty much there in a nutshell. So once we've got that, we can also copy that, and we'll call this variable, you guessed it guys, is below. And girls, I'm not excluding you. You are fantastic as well. But we don't want the maximum, we want the minimum. So the minimum value of the TK and the KJ is now less than or equal to the bottom. Did I call it bottom or bot? There it is, bottom. Okay, so we now have two more variables, is above and is below. And the way we're going to use that is crossover confirm TK and KJ and is above, then we get 1. So now we care if it is crossing above, but it's got to be above the Kumo. And then sure enough, we're going to have this variable is below, is going to be cross under confirm and is below. And let's just spread out some space. Save. Now that one should disappear. Elevator music here. There we go. And poof, vanished. And there we go. go away. So now we have a strong down signal in inverted commas. You can't see my fingers, but I'm doing air quotes here. Strong signal. In fact, let's jump down a time frame down to the 4 hour and let's see what we get. Okay, that's interesting. That's very interesting. Why did we get that there? We had a strong signal there. That's good, but then we had a down signal there. Let's go back to the daily and explain why this is wrong. When we talk about the Kumo is not present time. The Kumo is displaced 30 periods into the future. So although this is the price here, let me get my arrow. This is the current price that's calculating everything from now. The Kumo is being displayed the results of the calculations here, and those are 30 periods into the future. So when we are saying that the Tankenson and the Kijun line have crossed and they are above the Kumo, we also need to say that they are above the Kumo as the Kumo was 30 periods ago. Okay, so this down arrow here, get rid of that. Oh, come on, give me the measuring tool. 30 periods into the future, there. Okay, so this is where it's determining the cross confirm, but it's saying that the Kumo that it's underneath is here. And that's not what we want. We want to know if it's here. So if I go back to the 4 hour, actually, let's get rid of that. Let's go back to the 4 hour where we found the wrong thing. There we go. Okay, so this is saying on this arrow, yeah, there we go. On that arrow, it crossed under and it confirmed by 1, but it's thinking the Kumo is, where are you? It's thinking that the Kumo is here. Oh, man, come here. Give this. Get me that arrow. Get rid of that. Okay, so it thinks that it's crossed under that value there. So the minimum of the TK and KJ, which is the blue line here, is underneath there, which is true. But the problem is that we don't want it to be there, we want it to be there. So to do that, we need to specify that the maximum of that is greater than the Kumo top as it was Kumo offset period ago. Now, for those who don't know what I'm doing here, I'm putting square brackets on the end, which denotes, so think of Kumo offset as the number 30. Alright, so if I just write 30 there, okay, so Kumo top, and then this is getting the value of Kumo top 30 periods ago, so in other words 30 periods to the left. But rather than hard coding the number 30, I'm putting in the variable Kumo offset. So now if I hit save, we should see the pink arrow, the fuchsia arrow, sorry, disappear, but the blue arrow should stay. Let's hit save, insert elevator music now. And welcome back. And there it is. Poof, gone. Yay! That's working pretty good. So we have a up arrow, considered a bullish signal, and then Bitcoin did a part and fell back down again. So take these signals with a grain of salt. And let's have a look. Let's see if we have any down arrows anywhere. You know what? although these are the supposed accepted trading rules. Oh, there we had one back there. So supposedly that would be a shorting opportunity, except I would not have been happy with that trade. So anyway, this video is not to tell you or show you a magic way of making money on trading. It's just coding. So there you go. Now we have up arrows when the cross occurs above, and down arrows when they occur below, and no arrows when they occur in the cloud or elsewhere. Alright, so I think that should be enough for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to join the Discord server. Link is in the description, and say hello to whoever's in there. It's a very new server, so don't feel too lonely if you get there and then nobody replies. But in time, I'm sure there will be more of a community growing as more and more people see these videos. If you did like this video and you didn't think that I rambled on a bit too much, then give it a like. If you didn't like the video, well, there's a button for that too. I'm sure you can find it. And if you have any questions, you know what to do about the Discord. If you want to buy me a coffee or a beer or whatever, there are addresses down below if you wanted to support the channel, make this worth it. And yeah, I guess catch you in the next video. Still yet to figure out a good sign-off phrase, so any suggestions, let me know. Catch you later, guys, and be well. Catch ya.